What's up guys, BltzZ here today bringing you a Gotham Knights news video. Gotham Knights is a new Batman universe game which has co-op elements, open world mechanics, and an interesting looking RPG system. All things I love, and if you blend that with Batman, I am on board. Unfortunately, in this game, Batman is not available according to the trailers, but that's not an issue. We will be playing it in very capable hands. The awesome heroes Batman himself has molded and trained into the warriors they've become. Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl, and Robin are all playable and customizable. This game is very new, so of course IGN did an interview with creative director Patrick Redding and producer Fleur Marty. The very first question the interviewer asks is, will combat feel like the Arkham games? Is this a familiar beat-em-up combat system? Patrick Redding says, we have gone through and iterated on control schemes quite a bit over the course of the whole project, but it'll be comfortable to people who are familiar with a third-person brawler type experience. The way you're accessing some of your special moves and things like that can vary, I'm sure, but in terms of having both attack and defensive choices, having a range of combo choices, having variations in strike types and attack types, being able to combo into your range attacks as well as your melee attacks, all of that there, and I think will be comfortable for people who have played modern, contemporary third-person action adventure style brawlers. If you ask me, this is just a nice way of saying yes, it will feel just like the Arkham games, but of course it will have some twists on how certain moves function with others. If you're familiar with the Arkham style of fighting, you will fit in just well for this system. And that's not a bad thing at all, because we can all agree that the fighting style of the Arkham games is super fun, easy to pick up, and can still be intuitive for the advanced user. If they just expand on that with more mechanics, it's safe to say that I'm sold, because if it's not broken and people love it, then why change it? Our special abilities tied to the stamina bar in the bottom left corner. Patrick Redding says, it kills me how fast people pick up on these things. I shouldn't be that surprised though. Yeah, you have special abilities in your ability tree that you will unlock and you can use to unlock in different ways, as well as how you use your gear. And some of that will tie into the bar, and we will be talking about this in the future. Fleur Marty says there's a bit of a strategic approach to it. The interviewer also asks, is this a fully open world and will areas be blocked off or level gated? Patrick Redding says it is one open world city right from the start, and no, there is no level gating whatsoever. In the gameplay reveal trailer, on the bottom left you have the health bar accompanied by a special meter. As you use certain moves, it uses up some of this meter, and of course as you beat and hit enemies, it can build right back up. This is a basic mechanic that is expected. They did confirm that there will be skill trees for abilities, but they also said that there will be different ways in which we can unlock them, including how we can use our gear, which some of this will tie into with how the special meter will be used in the gameplay. More on this will be revealed eventually, as this is a pre-alpha phase, which means the entire HUD and bars are subject to change entirely from the appearance to the functions as well. Not to mention, Robin also doesn't have any health bars or any meters to show from his gameplay. Marty also adds that there is a strategy behind it too, which I'm excited to hear because there are many different playstyles that can be created from this, which you guys should all know by now I am all for and excited for. In regards to the fact that the entire city is open world and there will be no level gating, that sounds freaking awesome to me, because this can provide for a non-linear feeling to further back the RPG elements that are being introduced to this series. No level gating is great too, but I do hope there are some areas where enemies are a little bit stronger instead of just being level scaled to fit us. What do enemy levels mean to the player then? Patrick Redding says, it's true that you're getting more powerful in your progression. You're going to see a sliding scale in terms of not just the level of the enemies, but even some of the types of enemies that you're going to be coming up against. But it's not a grind. It's not a situation where you'll say, oh god, I have to grind this type of mission in order to level up this, and then I can get this. It's really that when you encounter open world crime activities and other activities that involve the AI, you're going to see the range, right? You might see guys that are a little bit weaker than you and the guys that are a little bit stronger than you. And how you approach those situations, it presents you with some choices that you're going to have to make. Like, is this a situation that I'm going to maybe swap out a piece of equipment because I think it's going to handle it a little bit better that way? Or do I want to take a more stealthy approach? All those are options that are available to the player, and the level of your enemy is just one factor in deciding that. This further reinforces to me that while we will level up and get stronger, we will have more challenges presented to us in the game. So if we grind heavy and level up, we can expect to see stronger enemies appear, but also different types of enemies as well. They can be more armored enemies or just newer variations of enemies with different combat styles. It may be the classic RPG player inside of me, but I really don't mind having to grind levels to get stronger and beat an enemy or a mission. I get that others may feel a different way about this, so it seems they're trying to suit the casual non-RPG player while also bringing us RPG players into the fold. Having to change up your gear a bit to better suit certain enemies or missions sounds great as well. I do hope the level of customization is a heavy factor in that. It's great to see that there are going to be multiple factors overall to take into account, and your own level is just one of them. How different can the Knights become? Will my Red Hood be different to someone else's Red Hood? Patrick Redding says between the ability tree for Red Hood, which is very unique, and his gear spec, and the way that you can modify and upgrade both of his ranged weapons, his melee weapons, his suit, absolutely. In fact, the range between character builds remains actually quite robust throughout the entire game. The interviewer also asked, how do character skins work? Are they made up of individual pieces of armor or full-on outfits? Marty says they're a mix of all of that. And Patrick Redding adds in, so just to be clear, when we talk about gear, we're talking about your melee weapon, your ranged weapon, and your suit, which has certain armor characteristics. And then there's your suit style. That's the sort of skinning of the suit. Because we didn't want to turn it into some random crazy quilt, what we've done is we've got distinct suit looks. And within that, there's an accessory variation that players can tap into. That way you get a chance to tweak it and make it exactly the way you want it. We hear all the time about skill trees being unique in various games, but at the end of the day, most players find the best possible abilities to have, which becomes something you almost never change. I really do hope that this skill tree is unique in the sense that we can change up completely the way that your character functions compared to others. Range builds will possibly also have a distinct exclusive playstyle compared to melee builds, sort of like DC Universe Online, where, for example, back when I used to play it, every character class had a unique rotation for melee and range attacks. You would use your melee rotation against enemy mobs and mini bosses, but against raid bosses you almost cannot get in melee range in front of them unless you want to die over and over again. So you have to use a range rotation in order to keep a safe distance while also dealing great damage. Because of this, certain character classes would be better than others. Like at one point, Red Lantern Rage DPS were the strongest in the game with their melee rotations, but their range attacks were very weak. Whereas Green Lantern Hardlight classes had a very strong range attack, but mid-tier melee attacks. I don't think the combat system of Gotham Knights is going to be that diverse, but it would be cool to see each player have a different style. In regards to the skins and armor question, if everything is fully customizable as they say it is and everyone can be unique, that's a great direction for them to head in. From the first two trailers alone, we can already see two totally different Batgirl suits as well as Robin. Robin in the gameplay trailer is sporting a red Robin look with the cowl on his head rather than a traditional domino mask. What does co-op offer above single player? Can two players play co-op with the same character? Patrick Redding says because the characters are so distinct from each other, there's a bit of asymmetry, a bit of the complementary skill set and ability that actually makes teaming up kind of awesome if you happen to have different characters. Now, if you happen to have two Batgirls, you can also do that. Obviously, the potential of having different Batgirl builds and how they look different and play differently is really cool too. This is freaking awesome to hear. In Marvel's Avengers co-op, we played it on livestream recently, and many times we would run into two players who wanted to play the same character, and switching that up was a bit tedious in the beta. But it looks like in Gotham Knights you don't have to worry about that. Two Nightwings can play together, and the same goes for two Red Hoods. This is very awesome to hear and a great step in the right direction. I applaud them for not forcing us to fight with friends or viewers on who gets to play who, because you already know whose dick I'm gonna be gracening. Is this a game as service, otherwise known as live service game? Marty says this is very much not designed as a game as service. There is an ability tree, which is different for each of the characters, and then there's gear that you craft, and so there are choices that you're going to be making. But that does not mean that this is a game as service. The interviewer also asked, so Gotham Knights is a single self-contained story? Marty says yes, absolutely. That, and you can completely experience it solo if you want to. You're not going to miss out on anything. If you're playing single player, you can be offline if you also want to. We think that teaming up and living that dynamic duo fantasy can also be a really great experience for players, but we will not force it on them. This is mind-blowing. Right from the start, seeing levels, obtaining gear, and co-op partying, you would think this is a live service game like Marvel's Avengers, Destiny, and many others. But in fact, you can play this story entirely solo, or you can do so offline, which is a big deal for many players. There are some people who comment on the channel saying they don't have PS Plus or Xbox Live, so they won't be getting certain games. Or many others who just prefer to play games offline by themselves solo, like my lame girlfriend. But they're really not trying to force any of that on you guys, and this is great news for those parents who have kids that love superhero games but they do not want to pay for them to play online. Why is it 2-player co-op maximum? Patrick Redding says you can have 4-player brawler experiences, but I think the more you try to lean into that, the more you end up having to create environments that really only work for that. And if you look at the fantasy of the Batman family and when these heroes get together, it's often weirdly kind of a drop-in, drop-out scenario. They'll always be rolling their solo crime-fighting efforts, then they'll cross paths and it turns out they're after the same guy. And you know, they kind of join forces, and then they take that on and go their separate ways or decide to team up some more, and that's all possible in the current dynamic. Focusing more on the idea of the immediate team-up of two allowed us to say, okay, we can build a world that works perfectly well for either solo play or pairing off. I personally want 4-player co-op for this game very badly, but after hearing why they decided on 2, it makes a little bit more sense now. Not only does it match up continuity where DC heroes usually roam in duos to work together, it also helps them to not force the players who prefer solo play, such as the Arkham series players, into co-op. Instead, now it's an option and level design is created with 2 players or solo in mind. However, if 4-player co-op was a thing, they'd have to rebalance all missions for solo, duo, trio, and of course quad gameplay. I do hope in the future we can get maybe some updates that may add 4-player challenges which are entirely optional in the game, but they are thinking ahead about the solo player's preference. This game clearly uses the Arkham games combat system to a certain degree. These Arkham games are of course solo story experiences, and they don't want to take that away from them or force them into something different. But many times in the Arkham games, Batman does work or fight alongside one other hero for a short amount of time. I'm not as salty as I was before reading that, and now I understand their thought process a little bit more. Real quick guys, are you protected? Because I don't think so. We can change that really quick by using the deal of a lifetime from NordVPN. We are now affiliated with NordVPN, and this is all thanks to you guys and the continued support on the channel. NordVPN is one of the biggest VPN companies in the entire world. Nord makes sure that your privacy is kept safe and that you can continue looking up those Cloud Mosalon fanfiction at your leisure. If you use the promo code BLTZ at checkout from NordVPN.com, you will get 68% off for a 2-year plan plus a free month to go on top of that. You really can't pass this up, and you shouldn't. I don't know why you would. In addition to that, you can actually click on my affiliated link in the description below and choose a plan that best suits you. Nord also works on your mobile devices, which is super clutch when you need to connect to public Wi-Fi. Trust me, you don't want to be on one of those without this. One of the best things about NordVPN is they do not keep track of your logs, so feel free to fire it up because Nord has your back. For the advanced users, Nord also gives us access to their proxy servers if you want to customize your settings a little bit. Also, if some video is not available for you to watch in your country, you can actually use NordVPN to teleport anywhere within another country to start watching that content. All of this information is provided to you, and setting up Nord literally only takes the click of one button. I'm not even joking. It's just literally you click one button and congratulations, you are now protected. So do yourself a favor and use promo code BLTZ at checkout from NordVPN.com for 2 years and 1 free month on top of that. Or please feel free to use my link in the description below so you can choose a plan that best suits you. Remember, Nord has your back. Can I play as one knight all the way through? Patrick Redding says, yup, you can go back to the Belfry and say, oh, I just unlocked the next major piece of the mystery and I need to go deal with this thing. And then you can decide that this is the perfect opportunity for me to swap out and play as somebody else. So we allow you to dip in and out of those characters. But we do know most players will typically gravitate towards one hero that usually reflects their style. But I think it's always possible for people to kind of sit there and incrementally play everybody if they want. So you can change whoever you want to play as mid-story after missions, which is pretty badass and most likely is the reason why they decided to go with level scaling enemies to the current level of your character. The gameplay trailer mentions that the player is halfway through the Mr. Freeze storyline. Are there multiple villain quest lines to follow at one time? Marty says that's probably more details than we're supposed to do at this stage, but yeah, that's a clue that we put in there. Yeah, you got that right. The interviewer also asked, what's the time scale of the game? Is there a day and night cycle? Marty says it's actually over many nights, so yes, we do have a kind of a day and night cycle, but the daytime is when you spend your time in the Belfry. The Belfry is super central to our game because it's your base of operations. You get to go back there, analyze all the clues that you picked up during your previous nights, and have a little chat with Alfred, craft your gear, and really prepare for the next night of crime fighting. So yeah, daytime is Belfry, then at night you roam in the streets fighting criminals and unraveling the mystery. There is no doubt that multiple villains will appear in Gotham Knights, but being able to do multiple storylines at the same time would be pretty cool in my opinion. In regards to the day and night cycle question, it looks like we never will as players get to experience what Gotham is like during the daytime. The Belfry moments will most likely have that sort of daytime view of the city, then we go on missions and it will change to nighttime. It makes sense for continuity, but I still think it would be nice to explore Gotham in ways that we've never seen, like daytime for example. Will the Knights be out of their disguises in the Belfry? Marty says, you got that hint in our trailer actually. Patrick Redding also says, it was very important to us, the Belfry. I mean, it obviously has a huge role in play in how the player manages their characters, their progression and all that, but it's also a narrative space and it's a place where characters are allowed to be seen and have facial expressions and talk to each other. So it serves as a dual purpose and it's a really effective way of using that space. The interviewer asked, was this always a non-Arkham game? Patrick Redding says, yes, 100%. That was something that we arrived at early on. We want this to be the start of something, not just a continuation or the prolonging of something. It was always intended as a new franchise set within DC's Batman universe, obviously. Once we had that as not a blank slate, but a clearer possibility of space, then we started arriving at some other ideas that allowed us to kind of move in a very different direction. You know, take the step of killing Batman. Seeing the characters interact out of costume will be pretty cool to witness, especially with them putting emphasis on being able to see facial expressions and character reactions more clearly. That is obviously a focus for them on us experiencing that with these 4 characters and Alfred. I love the dynamic of these characters and I can't wait to see how Jason Todd and Dick Grayson will interact with one another. In regards to the second question, they confirmed this is officially not canon with the Arkham games and it is an entirely different universe. They want this to be its own entity and original story/concept, which is pretty cool. Also, it's a very bold decision in getting rid of Batman. This doesn't bother me at all because I always loved Nightwing as a character and I wished him and the others got more shine, rather than the BS they got with those short-ass Arkham missions. But let's be real, Batman is not dead. I'm sure this is going to be revealed in the story as we play it more. Is Gotham Knights story based on existing comics? Patrick Redding says, honestly, we could probably publish a reading list and post it to our website and it would be an excellent way for people to get themselves more fully immersed in it. But to be clear, it's an original story. It's very much our interpretation of several aspects of the Batman lore and the Gotham City history. And we kind of synthesize them in a way that holds it together as a very much unified storyline. Interviewer also asked, could there be more stories told in Gotham Knights universe then? Patrick Redding says yes, but I won't say more than that. Marty says Gotham Knights is all about growth. There is room for growth. Like most superhero games or movies, they will be throwing in references and nods to the already existing storylines that we know from comics or TV shows. But ultimately, they're going to introduce their own original aspects of a story by blending in some of these continuity pieces together. DC in general has so much content to work on from the Batman universe alone, so the long-time support for this game can go on for quite some time if they do it right. Which is exactly why in the second question, they basically state yes, there is room for expansions, or as they say, growth. It's very early on in the news world for this game, so we can expect to see more information coming out as the weeks go on. But make sure you stay locked into this channel so you don't miss out on upcoming news and information relating to Gotham Knights. Shoutouts to the members on the channel, you guys are the real MVPs. If you have not yet, be sure to join our channel membership so you don't miss out on video shoutouts. You also gain access to channel exclusive emojis, as well as sweet materia loyalty badges, which level up with you the longer that you are a member. Protect yourself on the internet and use our promo code BLTZ at nordvpn.com for 68% off a 2-year package plus 1 month for free. The affiliate link in the description below will also give you access to other subscriptions for Nord at your own choice. Please use the link as it helps me out tremendously to keep on pumping out content for you guys on a regular. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Gotham Knights news videos are on their way and you won't want to miss that. My name is BltzZ and thanks for watching.